Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana Hobby Guy, and today we're doing a review of the Creality Falcon 2 22 watt laser. I'm changing my format a little bit for my laser reviews. We're going to start off with the manufacturer claims on their website, and then we're going to move to the pros and the cons, and then we're going to move to the actual testing that I did. So I will put timestamps down below. If you click show more, that'll open up and you'll see timestamps to all the different parts of this video, and this is the way I'm going to be doing the future reviews of the other lasers. This is part of the battle of the 20 watts, and we are getting started. I've got 4 other 20 to 35 watt lasers in the laser lab running simultaneously, doing B-roll videos on each of the different ones. All of the products, all of the things that I make are going to be exactly the same, with the exact same settings, the exact same powers, and we're going to have a final video after all that, maybe 5 weeks down the road, where I will show you the results from each different one side by side, and you can decide which one you like the best. But in the meanwhile, today's video is a review of the Falcon 2, the Creality. So let's jump up over to their website real quick and take a look at some of the pictures. We'll look at the specifications, and then we'll move on to my testing. So it does say here groundbreaking air assist kit, and I'm going to agree with that, because you have here an air assist that's integrated into the machine. It is controlled by Lightburn. So if you turn the power on in Lightburn, it will turn the air assist on completely. If you turn the power off to the air assist in Lightburn, it will only turn it on slightly, just enough to keep the lens from getting dirty from the debris. So that is, I will call that groundbreaking integrated air assist. You can see on there is an M7 control box that controls from Lightburn. So to move on to the next picture here, it is 4 6-watt diodes that are reflected off of mirrors collimated in through one lens. The machine does come with an extra lens. Lens cleaning on this is extremely simple. I have cleaned the lens on this. It does move at 25,000 millimeters per minute. I did verify that. And the colorful engraving that they keep touting in this ad, I'm going to say that that's probably titanium to get all of those colors, and that job probably took forever, hours. So I'm not even going to talk about that today. We're going to move on down and get to what's in the box. So here is the packing list, and the laser comes 99% assembled. The only thing that you have to do is plug the power cable into the laser module, plug the air assist hose in, slide this into the holder here, and that is it. Put a couple of tie wraps on here that come with it. You do have the 1 3/4 riser stands that are lifted up 1 3/4. There are extra 1-inch stands, so that will bring it up to 2 3/4 inches from the work surface. Plus the amount of up and down movement on here, the Z movement, is quite substantial, so you'll have no problem with that. You can throw away these green glasses because they are not the right glasses for the job. If you click on the show more, you can find the link to the proper glasses to wear for the 455 nanometer diode. It does come with a key lock. I did turn it on and throw the keys away because the only thing I can do with those keys is lose them, and but that is great if you have kids around the house, or if you don't want anyone to fool with the laser. There is a step guide for focusing, a metal step gauge. It is black with white letters, so it's easy to read, kind of nice. You're probably wondering why there's a TF card reader and a USB-A to USB-C adapter. Well, in the top of the laser module, there's a little rubber boot right next to the reset button. If you pick up that little rubber boot, you can plug in the USB. With the latest firmware on the SD card, turn on the laser, and it will automatically do a firmware update. The easiest firmware update I have seen on any laser. One other thing that I like is that it comes with an extra lens should you need it, the dust-free cloth or the cloth to clean it with, and you do have these cable straps. All of the cable ties, these are Velcro. These are all metal and they're clips. You can open and close them. Very nice cable management on this machine. I like the air assist because it does not have a separate power supply. It plugs directly into the side of the laser over here. So that's it for what's in the box. And now let's move on to the specifications. In the technical specifications, we are on the 22 watt Falcon 2 over here. Can it cut 15 millimeter wood in one pass? Yes, it can. It engraves at 25,000 millimeters per minute quite nicely. It does do color engraving on metal, specifically titanium. Does a nice job. The spot size of 0.1 millimeter is not accurate. I will show you the actual spot size with a crack ruler a little bit later on in the video. The working area is 400 by 415. The resolution is not 254 dpi. It is quite lower, much lower than that. And that's about it for the specifications. So let's move on now and take a look at some of my testing, pros and cons. Alright, so let's get into the pros and the cons. We're going to start off with the pros. And let me tell you that price that you saw on their website, don't buy it from the website. I've got a special link down below in the Show More section to Amazon, where you can get this with a coupon there on Amazon for $779. And I will say that I would recommend this laser. So let's start with the pros. Number one, it's made by Creality. So that is, you know, one of the biggest pros. It is 24 watts. It does output somewhere between 20 and 22. So that is definitely a big check mark in my book. It is all metal, all aluminum construction. It is solid, real nice. You can tell by looking at it, a nice silver commercial look. Just feels nice. It's heavy. It's a nice, really nice, well-made laser. It has the front controls for the SD card, so if you wanted to do remote design, save that design to the SD card, put the SD card in it and not have it connected to a computer, you can do that. You've got the left, right, up and down arrows. A short press on the arrow moves it a millimeter. A long press moves it to wherever you want. You can frame it, and you can hit start, all from the little control pad on the front. The home button does work all the time. So if you happen to be over there at the laser and you are connected to the computer, you can hit the home button and then walk over to the computer and keep designing. So I do like that little home button feature on the front. So the key, it has a key just in case you have children that can turn it on. You can lock it out so nobody can use it. It does have an e-stop, and it does have all of the standard safety features. The gyro if you tilt it, you know, all that kind of good stuff. It does have all linear rails on the X and the Y. There is only one eccentric nut, and that is on the actual laser module itself. The wheels for the X are really sturdy, and I like the fact that it rides in a raised channel instead of a depressed channel. The cable management on this is second to none. It comes almost fully assembled. The only cable management you've got to do is plug in the laser module, plug in the air assist, and put on the two little Velcro straps. So that is a big plus. I do like the lights, the LEDs that they've got on the front of the laser module. The one on the left is the air, the one in the middle is the fire, and the one on the right is the lens. So they let you know when the air is the proper airflow. You can adjust it with an analog dial, a variable resistor on the side of the machine. You roll it up for more pressure, roll it down for less. If you roll it too far, it'll turn yellow. If you go even further, it'll turn red. That means that you shouldn't be engraving at that speed. I like that. That's a really nice feature on it. And of course, that is controlled by the M7 box that's on the gantry. So that is a great feature that you can control it in Lightburn. And I am looking at all of my little pros notes over here, so I want to make sure that I get everything in here. One of the really nice things about this machine is, and I'll show you a little later, is that you can see the laser when it's framing if you have it turned on in Lightburn. So on a lot of these machines, you'll see they have a mirror cover or a blue cover or whatever. This one is an actual orange lens, and you can see the laser beam when you're framing. So that is a great feature on it. The firmware update, another great feature on it. Easiest firmware update on the market. And I do like the fact that you've got everything you need in a little organized toolkit, and well, that's everything that you need. So now to move on to the cons, and I'm going to make sure I cover all of these. I'm trying to get as organized as I can with these laser reviews, so that I can get through them as quickly as possible and also cover everything. So one of the biggest problems that I had, one of the cons, was that the gantry was not square. So when I wound up doing one of these, I'll show you in a short video later, when I wound up doing one of these, I cut and engrave the backside both at the same time. And if the gantry is not square, when you flip it over, those two pieces won't fit evenly. So it did not come from the factory perfectly square. You know, it's the technician that put it together. Yours may be perfectly square, mine was not. I had to release the tension on the Y belts, and I had to move the gantry to the front, make sure that it was solid, and then retension them again to get it square. So that was my first con. The e-stop is in the wrong place. It's all the way on the right side, and when you're reaching in, moving your materials around, you will constantly hit that e-stop button because it is extremely sensitive. The strange thing is that it's totally unnecessary, because right to the right of that there's the power switch on and off. So you don't need the e-stop. The power switch is good enough. I disconnected mine because I was just hitting it so many times. It is hard to use in absolute coordinates. So like almost every machine on the market save one, you cannot use the machine and you can't take a piece of wood, set it down in the top left corner and hit start. So you do have to have a wasteboard. You have to attach it to the wasteboard. You have to burn your wasteboard grid on there. So that is an extra step that you have to take. It also does not come with any accessories. So you're going to need to have the air hose. You're going to need to buy an air hose. You're going to need to get an inline fan, an enclosure, a honeycomb bed, and mount it to the wasteboard. And those are all things that, well, you know, just add cost and time. This is not something that you take right out of the box, drop it down on your workbench and get to work. You're going to have to customize this, and you're going to have to add all of these accessories to work safely. All of that, including the 0.1 millimeter claim that they make about the spot size, that is another con on my list, because the spot size is not 0.1 millimeters on this, and we'll cover that when I show you it with the crack ruler. So that is all of the pros and the cons on this machine. Now we're going to move on to the actual testing itself and some of the videos that I take, and I'm going to go into more depth on the pros and the cons in these short videos. Here we go. Alright, so let's get started with the first cut test. This is 3mm basswood. You'll see that the yellow light for the air is on. I should have turned the dial up just a little bit further, but it will turn green when it gets to the cutting. And I am going to speed this video up for you so that it doesn't take so long. So this is my very first test grid. I did a Lightburn test grid, and this is the actual result. So I'll go ahead and speed this up now, and we'll move on. I will say that this took about 17 minutes to complete. I have it in a pretty large size with a lot of different cuts. So I wanted to make sure that I got an accurate reading for all different speeds, because I am creating a library for this. So that's why this one took a little bit longer, because I believe I had 10 vertical and 10 horizontal. So this gives me a good idea of how well this thing cuts, right down to you know, very, very tight very tight measurements. So like I said, this took 17 minutes to complete, and was a very clean job, all the way up to 100% power. The air assist works very well on this machine. You can see now that the air assist is green, the LED light on the laser module, and I think this did just a superb job. You'll see the results at the end. I'll show you live, and then I'll switch over to a photograph with an orange background. This way you can get a better idea of how well this cut out. But it did a fine job. And now we're coming back into real time. I'll show you what came off of the laser. As you can see, very clean, no debris, no soot. The air assist worked beautifully. There were a couple that popped out. It didn't quite give me that, that straight line, which I'm a little confused about, but there were a couple that didn't pop out. And what I did here was just tap on it to see what would fall out. I don't want to push any out. So I was unhappy with that first cut that I did. So I ran a second job, 15 rows and 15 columns, to dial this in even more perfectly. And I did get the results that I was looking for. So this is the second run, and you can see that I got all the way up to 761 millimeters per minute, and all of them are perfectly clean cuts. And we will jump into the photograph in just a minute where you can see it even more clearly, but look at how beautiful. You'll see now that it is rectangular, the beam itself, but let's jump over into the picture and take a closer look. Now this one is black acrylic, and I can't videotape this with the front door on this cover here open. So as you can see, I have the exhaust on, and it is actually sucking this in over here. You can see the frame of the machine here. So I need to keep, this one's going to be a poorer video, but I need to keep this closed because the acrylic has some toxic fumes, and I'm gonna speed this up for you. I'm engraving in 3 different levels to see how the different levels come out, and then I'm gonna be cutting this piece out. And it's just my logo. So I'll speed this video up now and show you the results at the end. All right, gonna give it a second to just clear out those toxic fumes. And I really like this particular enclosure. It's made by Comgrow because it is sealed all the way around. So let me get this out of the way. Oh, it stinks in there. Okay. And it's going to stink anyway. So I'm going to take this off, remove this, and my logo is now finished. And we'll go over to the bench and weed it. And I can't really tell you how great this looks in person. You can't really tell here with this video because of the lighting here in the shop, but you can see that light in the background. But this came out really nice. I like all of the settings that I used, and in person this is much nicer than it looks here in the video. So next I moved on to a photograph, and this is the Legends of the Blues. Now this one I did do, I'm looking at it right now, I did do this a little bit too dark, so I did wind up rerunning this job. I'll show you those later on when I show you all of these files in person, but it did come out too dark, and because of the spot size, which we'll talk about in a minute, you could not read the fine print on the bottom. So all in all, it did a good job on photographs. I've done about 14 different photographs of it so far. This is the only one that I'm going to cover in this video, and it came out pretty well, but you know, the fine detail is not going to come out well because of the spot size of the machine. So this is my second attempt at Legends of the Blues. So now that we've done the image engraving, I wanted to do a vector engraving. So this is a vector map of the old world, and it came out okay, but you know, all of the fine details, because of the spot size on this machine, this will be quick by the way, all of the fine details did not come out as well as I'd like them to. I probably could have maybe focused it better, but I am using the manufacturer suggested focus here. So I want to make sure that what I do here is what you would expect straight out of the box and exactly how the manufacturer recommends it. So this was 3mm plywood, and I did engrave and cut it without changing the focus. I just raised the power a little bit. It came out nice, I'll have to say that. Probably what anybody would accept. Not something that I would accept though. But again, 3mm plywood, old world map. This is a vector engraving, and it came out, I would say, pretty decent. Now this laser does have one eccentric nut. It is right here behind the laser module. So all you do is loosen these two, pull the module out, put it onto the side, take the wrench that's included. If your gantry rocks like this, then the eccentric nut needs to be adjusted. Now mine did not, it came perfectly adjusted, but if yours does move, you just take and turn this nut slightly until it stops moving, and it still is able to move back and forth freely. And that, if you can move the gantry like that without moving the bracket itself, without it rocking, then your nut is adjusted properly. I wanted to show you quickly how I got the air dialed in on this for engraving and for cutting. So on the side over here, it's going to be hard to see, there's a little dial right there, and that dial moves up or down, and that controls the airflow to the laser module. So if I were to turn the air down, you'll see that it started to flash yellow. Well, I'm just going to turn it up until it goes to green, goes to yellow. Now it's on a solid green, maybe just a little bit more. And that's the perfect air, in my opinion, for engraving. So we just want to keep the lens clean, and I think that's a good airflow that we've got right there. And when it comes time for it to cut this project out, I will come back and flip the knob all the way up to full. Alright, so let's cover some of the things that I made in person here. And I did have to do some adjusting in the beginning. I ran the pattern test, and the pattern test took about 4 minutes and 45 seconds. I've got all my notes on the back. The black line, 20,000 millimeters per minute, 95% power. The cut, which was a very nice cut, I ran at 700 millimeters per minute, 89% power. This is 3mm 3-ply plywood. It did do a real nice cut, and all of the squares are squares, all of the circles are circles. This is what I did my crack test on, which you'll see photographs of it in a minute to find out what the actual spot size was. I was off just a little bit on the measurements, so I wound up going into the machine settings, and this is what I wound up with when I called for a 50 by 50 square. It turned out to be 49.7 on the Y and 49.75 on the X. So I did have to go into the machine settings and adjust that, in addition to adjusting the belts on the machine because the gantry wasn't square. So this is the result of my 3mm 3-ply birch, the final test that I did here, and you can see that I got up to 700 millimeters per minute, 85.7% power. Did a really nice job. The back, you can see the back here. That is the result of the cut test. This is the result of the raster engrave, and you can see on here that I didn't quite get the medium color that I was looking for. I don't have a perfectly straight line here, so I do have some anomalies in the engraving, which you know, I guess I could live with. My first attempt at the Legend of the Blues was a little bit too dark, as you can see here. I did a second attempt on the back side, which I cut through this part right here, to try and get these letters down here readable. I was not able to do that, again, because of the spot size. My third attempt of the Legends of the Blues came out pretty good at 24,000 millimeters per minute, 50% power, in Atkinson, and 275 lines per inch. So that came out pretty good. On the acrylic, I ran several different layers in here. So the outline I did at 20,000 millimeters per minute, 95% power, and 318 LPI, so that the lines would wrap over each other. The inside letters I did at 20,000 millimeters per minute and 65% power, also at 318. The outside border, so that it would set down some, I did at 20,050 in offset fill, and I cut this acrylic at 300 speed and 100% power. I think it came out pretty good. I've done lots and lots and lots of different tests. I'm just picking some randomly out for this video for you to see. This is a vector engraving at 20,000 millimeters per minute, 95% power. The cut was at 789. This is, again, 3mm plywood. This took 10 minutes and 45 seconds. And finally, the world map. I did this at 20,000 millimeters per minute, 95% power, Atkinson at 275 LPI. This came out pretty good, I have to say. I would be happy with this. I did notice that some of the outside edges burned darker, but that's because the wood warped up. I didn't have magnets holding it. That's not the fault of the laser. That is the fault of the operator. And then I decided that I was going to try a 3D engraving, so I did the American Eagle. I did this at 20,000 millimeters per minute, 95% power in Jarvis, and that's how I get the best 3D engravings. And this was the cut was at 789, again because this is plywood, so 3mm plywood. Moving on now, I did have to, like I said, reset the gantry, but I did this birthday card and it came out pretty well, perfectly as a matter of fact, except for the small letters on my brand on the back. I would say that this is absolutely acceptable. Now I did do some other cutting tests, which I'll throw pictures up on the screen here. This is MDF, and this is 6.25 millimeter MDF, 250 speed, 100 power. It took 3 passes on that, and that is a solid core MDF. This is 350 speed, 100% power, and this is black acrylic, and that was the best result I got for black. The yellow acrylic took 3 passes, 400, 100, 3mm yellow with the paper on it. I also did 8mm oak. This was 235, 100% power, cut right through it with no problem. I moved up to 13mm oak. This is 3 passes at 300 and 100. I'll put these pictures up on the screen as well. And probably what everybody is waiting to see is the crack test. So let's jump over to the photographs of the crack test and I'll show you what I've got. We're going to start first with the actual first image so you can get an idea of what the crack ruler is. And this is it right here. And what this is, it's a very accurate clear plastic ruler that you lay down over the actual product that you're trying to measure the crack. And this is used in concrete work, and I'm using it here on the wood. So you can see that the black lines are going to merge together with the lines that I burned into the wood. But let's go to the horizontal picture. So this is the horizontal. You'll see that the crack ruler goes off past the actual burn. This is the end of the actual burn right here, and you'll see that we are at about 0.25 on the crack ruler. So that is horizontal. If we switch over to the vertical, you'll see that the vertical is right at about 0.20. This is the end of the crack ruler here. This is the actual burn over here. Here you can see the end of the crack ruler right here. So we're at somewhere between 0.15 and 0.20. There is no in between there. So I'm going to call it about 0.175. And sometimes I'll get 0.15 and other times, you know, I'll get 0.20. So it just depends. Here's a better look at it where you can clearly see the end of the crack ruler here, and you can see the burn after that. And it is right at about 0.20. That's probably something that a lot of people have been waiting for because I've mentioned it so many times. Let's move on to a couple of other instructional videos. We'll talk a little bit about focusing and a couple other little things that I saw along the way. And then we'll wrap this all up and I'll give you my final thoughts. Adjusting the focus is pretty easy. They gave you a nice little gauge here that has the different depths on it. Let me see if I can get this to focus. There we go. So your engraving is going to be the top one. Your cutting over here between 4 and 6 millimeter is the middle one. And your cutting over 6 millimeter is going to be the bottom one. You see there, this is a step gauge. So if we're going to engrave, we would simply place this below the laser module, loosen these two, hold the module, don't let it slam down, let it sit, rest right on top of that engraving one, tighten the two knobs, and now we have a perfect engraving height. So you hear how that kind of scratches right there? That is the perfect height for engraving. So it works pretty well. I would rather see a turn knob up on the top. I'd rather see them put a knob up on top where you can turn it up and down, but unfortunately you have to do it manually, so makes it, you know, a little harder, but still pretty easy to do. I want to show you a lesson that I learned. Because this machine came fully assembled, I normally, or since I started doing this, I've been cutting these two pieces of this birthday card. They're both exactly the same size. I've been engraving and cutting afterwards on the same side. And what happened on this one, I couldn't figure it out, but when you go to put them together, of course there are spacers that go in here, but when you go to put them together, I want you to see what happened here. So if we get these two perfectly lined up, which they are right now, I want you to notice that here on the left side, this protrudes. On the right side, it does not. It's going in. So it's slightly off on the square of the machine. Whereas if I turn this over to the same side where it was cut and then align them perfectly, you'll see that they line up perfectly on both sides. Let me get this one perfectly square. There we go. Almost there. Well, it's hard to get it perfectly square. There we go. Perfectly square right there. And both sides, both corners are lined up perfectly. However, flipping this over, doing the same thing again, lining up one corner, lining up the other corner, right there. You'll see over here on this side it's protruding, and on this side it is not. What this tells me is that the person that put this together at the factory did not square the gantry perfectly before they tightened the belts. So I'm going to have to go back and tighten the belts, which I already did. I've got it square now, and it's working well. My last card came out perfect, but in addition to that, I also noticed that it was off by just a little bit on the size. So this is vertical this way, so this is the Y over here, this is the X. I called for a 50 millimeter square, and I wound up with a 49.7 by 49.75. So I did have to go into the device settings, and I had to calibrate both the X and the Y gantry. And there you have it. That is the complete review on the Creality Falcon 2. I will have a link down below in the show more section where you can get this machine for $809. I do recommend it if that's in your budget. Based on all of my testing, which this was 3 months in the making, this review, from start to finish. And like I said, I do have some other lasers in the shop that I've been testing at the same time, but I did not run into any issues at all with this other than the ones that I mentioned in the cons. So I found a better price. They do have a bunch of these all over Amazon. I found the cheapest one for the same machine, which is $1109 is the final price, less the $300 coupon. I would definitely recommend this at $809. So that is my opinion on the Creality Falcon 2. It is a nice machine. It will work well in a commercial setting. You will have to set it up, you know, for production runs where you have a hard stop for your honeycomb bed for cutting, and you have it mounted to a wasteboard, and you have it in an enclosure, so there will be a little bit of setup on it. But as far as the machine is concerned, it is definitely a thumbs up as far as I'm concerned with the 20 watts. So I tried to put this into a format that everybody would like, with timestamps down below, and I hope you enjoyed the video today and my review of the Falcon 2. So as always, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget that Battle of the 20 Watts is going to be one video a week. That's my goal right now, with one different 20 watt every week, culminating in the final video showing you all of the different tests side by side, and we'll see, well, you'll be able to decide which one is the best laser. So I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.